My Aunt Barbara was supposed to be a nun. Her Irish mother, Rosemary, my Grammy, raised all 5 of her kids to be very devout Catholics. This was a feat considering that my grandfather worshipped the turf of the football field because he played for and coached the Bears. But my grandma, through her sheer force, raised her 5 kids, Judy, Luke, Janet, Barbara, and Anne, on a path of strong faith. So that's why it was a surprise when one fall afternoon in 1970, Barbara told Grammy she wanted to leave the convent. They were sitting on a bench in the courtyard of Mother of Good Counsel. Barbara confessed she felt a calling to leave the convent walls. Grandma told her to use her bedtime prayer to ask for a sign. Barbara did that. She said her prayers, went to bed, woke up, looked outside, and on the bench where she and Grammy had been sitting, there were dozens of male cardinals on the bench. Now you know, they're bright red birds, right? They do not hang out in groups. They prefer to choose a life partner, who knew? And they don't hang out in groups. But there's this big group of men cardinals hanging out, and Barbara's like, oh yeah, it's my sign right there. So she left the convent, met my Uncle Brian. They got married. They've been married for 47 years. My family loved that story. We thought that was pretty cool. And so my father told it often. Now, he was Barbara's big brother, Rosemary's only son. He had a way of turning the most mundane into extraordinary. Irish, right? In my father's words, everyday events had the opportunity to become miracles. He never caught a fish that was shorter than 5 feet. So this story, an actual sort of miracle, became a staple in his library of cocktail conversation starters. Fast forward to 1992, big jump there. Grammy was dying of emphysema. The family gathered around her in the cramped, fluorescent-lit hospital room, saying our goodbyes. My Aunt Anne leaned over and asked Grammy to send a sign when she got to heaven. My Grammy squeezed Anne's hand and drifted away. A few days later, the extended family was gathering to celebrate life, but it felt like mourning a death. She was such a source of light and laughter. I remember a number of times where she would try to tell a story, a funny story, and she could not get the words out because she was laughing so hard. And so she would take the unending stream of toilet paper from her sleeve and white face. I never heard a punchline, not a single one. But it didn't matter because I was laughing anyway, right? So seeing her in the coffin, her makeup not quite right, her bra stuffed to make her look like Linda Carter's Wonder Woman, made no sense to me. For the funeral, Grammy's sister, Leone, had driven in from Minnesota. She tiptoed into the visitation area with dress pants and low heels, very sensible. But her winter coat was still on. One by one, my aunts tried to get her to take the winter coat off, and finally she said, I don't know what came over me. I had a fancy top picked out, but I chose to wear something else, and it's inappropriate. So she dragged open the sides of her coat, and underneath was a worn and weary sweatshirt. When my aunts saw it, they all gasped. Not because it was a sweatshirt, but because on the sweatshirt was a cardinal. A red regal cardinal. So we knew Grammy had gotten to heaven. Years passed, and my family celebrated Grammy and Grandpa, who had gone before her, but who didn't go to church or believe in religion or miraculous birds, by giving each other gifts with cardinals on them. My dad used to take pictures of the cardinal couple that lived in my backyard, my childhood backyard, and he would send them to me. Seeing the red males and the slightly more subdued females, mates for life, filled my heart. I was convinced Grammy was sending me signs. In the 2000s, I worked in television. You probably saw it, Weather Channel Storm Stories. My camera operators were all guys, goofy, gentle, gifted at seeing the details in the world around them. On a trip to western Colorado with one of my favorite shooters, Doug, we got lost. So this is before GPS. I printed out all the MapQuest you could imagine. We had it going on. We were telling the story of a girl, a hospital plane that crashed in the mountains on the way from Grand Junction to Denver. The little girl survived, so that's cool. But meanwhile, the pilot had kind of disappeared. He did not like the story, so he was living in the most remote part of Colorado. So we drove hours on winding roads to get to him, did the interview, it was good. We loaded up the Subaru, we were on our way back, and we couldn't find Denver. So I could tell Doug was getting annoyed because night was crashing down around us. And we pulled up to a T in the road and tried to guess which way was north. Mind you, we were creatives, not orienteers. So then I saw it. A cardinal landed on a tree in front of us and then took off to the left. I turned to Doug and I was like, follow that bird. So Doug, having no reason to argue, complied. We took the road until it dead-ended into another road, and the bird appeared again. I said, follow him. Go, 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 go. We followed that bird, I kid you not, for an hour, until we got to a road that had a sign that said I-70, Denver. So Grammy had a good sense of direction. The years turned into decades, cardinal ornaments, stationery, socks, and statues taking up more space in our homes and our hearts. Every visit from the red bird and his less flashy wife made me smile. Until 2016. That's when we got news of my dad's cancer. All cancer is terrifying, with excruciating treatments and a lot of questions. But esophageal cancer has a different kind of edge. It takes away the ability to eat and drink, to socialize. It takes away the ability to speak. So for my Irish storytelling dad, it was a living death sentence. I stopped seeing cardinals. I stopped seeing color at all. No splashes of red arose to guide me through his illness or offer me direction about what to do, what to say. He died 11 months later. We were all with him playing his favorite hymns and the Michigan State fight song. I remember watching his last breath, seeing his soul leave his body, and I couldn't breathe. Meanwhile, this was his handkerchief. He carried these around in his pants pockets for whoever needed them. It was often one of his children, thank God. But we would be at church, someone would have the sniffles, and he'd hand over the handkerchief, and then probably all four of us would blow our nose in it and then give it back to him. Put it back in his pocket like nothing had happened. And to me, that was the very definition of love. So in the week between his death and his funeral, we trudged through the motions. We wrote the obituary, we chose the dates and locations for visitation and the mass. We selected flowers in his burial suit and pictures for a slideshow. I didn't look up. Head down, one foot in front of the other, just trying to survive. But on the morning of my dad's funeral, my husband took a different route to the church. And as the blurry homes slid across my car window, I saw a splash of red. It was a little flag flying from a tiny yellow house, bearing the rippling image of a cardinal. I won't say that healed me, far from it, but it nudged my heart just a little. That spring was raw. We stumbled through our first Easter. My sister and I were too numb to plan Easter baskets for our kids, so my brother-in-law invented the Easter turkey, based on a wild turkey living in my parents' backyard. Mother's Day and my dad's birthday and my daughter's birthday came on the same weekend. We faked it. On Father's Day, I helped my daughters shower my husband with love, but I spent a good part of the day in bed. In fact, if not for my kids and my husband, I probably would not have gotten out of bed that whole year. But one summer evening, sitting outside, I heard a song. A neighbor pointed to the roof where a cardinal stood. That cardinal swooped into our yard and landed in a bush where his red-headed wife waited. The duo decided to live outside my window. I saw them almost every day. I stared at them, looking for signs. Did I think they were my dad and Grammy? No. But when I saw them, did I feel my dad and Grammy? Yes. For Christmas this year, my husband and daughters bought me a bird feeder. It sits outside our office window and I watch it every morning. The patch of lawn around it has become a community for all sorts of birds. The house sparrow, the mourning dove, the dark-eyed junco. My husband also bought me a bird book. But I know it's something special when the cardinal couple visits. They bring so much to me and I want to give back. I want to be the worm.